Caleb Hardin's hands were still black with forged soot when he saw the girl's fingers close around the bread. She was maybe 11, starving, shaking, and the merchant was already reaching for his whip. Caleb moved before he thought. His coins hit the counter hard enough to crack wood. "I'll pay for it." The girl stared at him with eyes that had seen too much. Behind her, hidden in shadows, a smaller child whimpered. "Mister," the girl whispered, "please don't hurt my sister." That was the moment Caleb Hardin's life split in two. Subscribe to our channel and follow this story to the end. Comment your city below, let us know how far our story has traveled. Coldwater Creek, Wyoming Territory, December 1878. The winter market spread across the frozen square like a ragged quilt. Caleb Hardin stood beside his blacksmith booth, watching folks shuffle past with their collars turned up against the wind. His boy Sam pressed close, 10 years old, and still looking for something Caleb couldn't give him. "Pa." "Yeah, son." "You reckon Ma's watching from heaven?" Caleb's jaw tightened. 18 months. 18 months since Sarah died, and the boy still asked questions that cut like a knife. "Reckon she is. She'd want us to be happy. You know that, right?" Caleb didn't answer. He still wore his wedding ring. Some habits outlasted grief. Some guilt outlasted reason. Movement caught his eye. A girl, thin as a rail, maybe 11 years old. Her dress hung in tatters beneath a coat that wasn't worth the thread holding it together. She stood at Emmett Walsh's bread stall, and Caleb watched her calculate the risk. He'd seen that look before, on outlaws, on desperate men, on himself once a lifetime ago. Her hand shot out, closed around a loaf. Emmett turned. "Thief." The merchant's hand grabbed for his whip. Caleb moved. His boots hit the frozen ground hard. His coins slammed the counter before Emmett's whip could clear his belt. "I'll pay for that." Emmett blinked. The girl froze. Bread clutched to her chest like it was made of gold. "Keep it," Caleb said to her. "It's paid for." She stared at him, eyes too old for her face, wary, waiting for the trap. "Why?" Her voice came out rough, suspicious. "Because it's cold, because you're hungry, because I got the money and you don't. Nobody does nothing for free. Maybe I ain't nobody." She studied him, the scar on his chin, the forge-blackened hands, the ring on his finger. "You a lawman. Used to be. Ain't no more. Why'd you stop?" Caleb's chest tightened. "Lost something I couldn't get back." The girl's eyes flickered. Recognition. She knew that feeling. "Mister," she whispered, "please don't hurt my sister." Caleb went still. "Your sister?" The girl's chin lifted. Defiant, protective. "She's hiding. She's only 5. She ain't done nothing wrong." "Where's your folks?" "Dead." One word, flat, final. Sam tugged Caleb's sleeve. "Pa." Caleb knew that tone. Hope and pleading braided together. The same tone Sam had used the night Sarah died, begging her to wake up. "What's your name?" Caleb asked the girl. "Emmeline. Emmy." She swallowed hard. "My sister's Marigold. We call her Goldie." "Where you staying?" "Nowhere." "How long?" 3 weeks. Since the Hendersons put us out." Caleb felt something crack in his chest. 3 weeks. December. Wyoming winter. "They just left you. Said we wasn't worth the feed." Emmy's voice didn't waver. "Said the Orphan train would come through in spring. Told us to manage till then." Sam stepped forward. "Pa, we got room." "Son, we got room. Ma would have wanted us to help. You know she would." The words hit Caleb like a punch. Sarah would have already had these girls home by now. Would have already been heating water for a bath, pulling out blankets, making soup. Sarah would have known what to do. Caleb didn't, but he knew he couldn't walk away. "Show me your sister," he said. Emmy didn't move. "Why?" Because it's Christmas Eve tomorrow. Because no child should be alone in the cold. Because... He stopped. Started again. Because I made a promise to someone once. To be the kind of man who helps when helping's needed. Who'd you promise? My wife. Before she died. Emmy's eyes searched his face, looking for the lie, the trick, the cruelty hiding behind kindness. Okay, she whispered finally. Okay. She led them through the market's maze, past stalls selling candles and ribbons and things nobody needed, past families laughing together, children riding on fathers' shoulders, mothers adjusting scarves and mittens. Sam walked beside Caleb, his hand finding his father's, holding tight. They found the little one behind a cart of winter squash, tucked into the shadows like a wounded animal. Goldie was 5, Emmy had said, but she looked closer to 3. Thin as a stick, eyes huge in her hollow face, clutching a scrap of fabric like her life depended on it. She didn't make a sound when she saw them, didn't run, didn't cry, just stared with eyes that had forgotten how to trust. Sam didn't wait for permission. He unwound his own scarf and wrapped it around Goldie's shoulders. It's warm, he said simply. I promise. The little girl's hand reached up, touched the wool. Her fingers were blue with cold. Something in Caleb's chest broke wider. Come on, he said. Let's get you both warm. They walked through streets turning blue with evening. Snow began to fall, soft, deliberate, like God was trying to cover something up. Emmy held Goldie's hand. Neither girl spoke. Emmy kept looking over her shoulder, waiting for Caleb to change his mind, waiting for the kindness to turn cruel. It never did. They passed Rose McCall's cottage. The widow's window glowed warm against the gathering dark. Caleb's eyes found her automatically. A habit he'd developed over recent months. The woman who brought meals when she thought Sam needed mothering. The woman who never asked questions about Sarah. Rose stood at her window. Her eyes found Caleb, then moved to the girls. She nodded once. Caleb led them home. His house stood beside the forge, small and solid. 2 rooms above the workshop. A kitchen that doubled as everything else. It wasn't much, but it was warm. At the doorstep, Emmy stopped. You sure about this, mister? Name's Caleb. And yeah, I'm sure. Why? Already told you why. Tell me again. Caleb looked at her. Really looked. Saw the fear she was trying to hide. The hope she was trying to kill before it could hurt her. Because my boy needs people to care about besides me. Because I got space and food and heat. Because it's Christmas. He paused. And because somebody should have helped you a long time ago. I'm sorry nobody did. Emmy's jaw worked. Her eyes shone. People always say nice things at first. Reckon they do. Then they change. Some do. How do I know you won't? You don't. Caleb held her gaze. But I'm asking you to try anyway. Sam took Emmy's hand. It's warm inside, I promise. Pa keeps his word. Emmy looked between them. Man and boy. Strangers offering something she'd learned not to trust. Okay, she whispered. Okay. She stepped across the threshold, pulled Goldie with her. Caleb closed the door behind them. Inside, the girls stood rigid in the center of the room. Emmy's eyes moved fast, cataloging. Exits, weapons, distance to the door. You hungry? Caleb moved to the stove. Yes, sir. Just Caleb, and yes or no is fine. He ladled stew from the pot, beef and potatoes, carrots from Rose's autumn garden. He filled 2 bowls, set them on the table. The girls ate like they were dying. No manners, no hesitation, just desperate animal hunger. Emmy paused only to help Goldie guiding the spoon when her sister's hands shook too badly. Sam watched with troubled eyes. Pa, when did they last eat? Don't know, son. Caleb filled the bowls again, and again, until Emmy finally pushed back from the table, her small stomach unable to hold more. "Thank you," she whispered. "You're welcome." Goldie's eyes had started to close. Emmy caught her before she could slide from the chair. The older girl's protectiveness was fierce, absolute. "There's a bed," Caleb said. "You can both sleep there tonight." Emmy's chin lifted. "Where'll you sleep?" "I'll manage." She studied him, searching for the lie, the trap, the price. "Mr. Caleb?" "Yeah." "If you're planning something bad," her voice dropped low, deadly. "I'll kill you. I don't care if you're bigger. I'll wait till you're sleeping and I'll kill you. You understand?" The words should have been absurd coming from an 11-year-old. They weren't. "I understand," Caleb said quietly, "and I believe you would." "Good. But you won't have to. I swear it on my wife's grave." Emmy's eyes held his, measuring, weighing. "Okay," she said finally. She led Goldie to the bedroom. Caleb heard the door close, heard the scrape of something being pushed against it. Sam looked up at him. "Pa, are they staying?" "Tonight they are." "What about tomorrow?" "Don't know yet." "I want them to stay. Forever." "Sam, Ma would have wanted it. You know she would." Caleb closed his eyes. The boy was right. Sarah would have already been planning the future, would have already been figuring out how to make 2 more children fit into their small life. But Sarah was gone, and Caleb didn't know how to be what these girls needed. "Let's just get through tonight," he said. "Then we'll figure out the rest." Sam nodded, disappointed but accepting. They settled in for the night. Caleb took the chair by the fire. Sam curled up on a pallet nearby. The house was quiet, but Caleb could hear Emmy moving in the bedroom, checking the window, testing the barricade against the door. She was a fighter, a survivor. 11 years old and already harder than most men. What had the world done to her? What had it done to that silent little ghost she called Sister Caleb, stared into the flames, and thought about Sarah, about the son they'd made together, about the future they'd planned that had died with her? He'd sworn he wouldn't love again, sworn he'd keep his heart locked up tight where nothing could hurt it. But those girls were already inside his walls, already making him feel things he'd buried with his wife. Hope, fear, the terrible weight of responsibility. He'd taken them in for one night of warmth and food and safety. But even then, sitting in the dark with snow falling outside, Caleb knew the truth. One night wouldn't be enough. Not for them, not for Sam, not for him. Morning came gray and cold. Caleb woke to silence. No movement from the bedroom, no small feet on the floor. For one terrible moment he thought they'd run. Then he heard it. A tiny sound, almost nothing, crying. He moved to the bedroom door, knocked softly. "Emmy, you girls all right?" Silence. "Emmy, I ain't gonna open this door without permission, but I need to know you're okay." A long pause. "We're okay." Emmy's voice was rough. "Goldie had a bad dream. She need anything?" "No." "You sure?" "I said no." Caleb stepped back. "All right, I'm making breakfast when you're ready." He moved to the stove, started coffee, put bacon in the pan. Sam appeared at his elbow yawning. "They still here?" "Yeah." "Good." Sam smiled. First real smile in months. "That's real good, Pa." The bedroom door scraped open. Emmy emerged first. Her hair was wild, her eyes red-rimmed, but her chin was up, her shoulders back. Goldie followed, clutching Emmy's hand, clutching her scrap of fabric. "Morning," Caleb said. "Morning," Emmy answered. Goldie said nothing. "She don't talk," Emmy said. "Ain't said a word since Ma and Pa died." "How long ago was that?" 2 years. 2 years. 2 years of silence. 2 years of carrying her sister through a world that didn't want them. "Sit down," Caleb said. "Food's almost ready." They ate together, all four of them. The girls still hungry despite last night's meal, Sam chattering about the forge, about Christmas, about everything and nothing. Emmy watched Caleb the whole time, waiting for the mask to slip. It didn't. When the plates were empty, Caleb pushed back from the table. "Here's the situation," he said. "You two can stay as long as you need. There's food, there's warmth, there's a roof, no strings. What's the catch? No catch." "There's always a catch." "Not this time." Emmy's eyes narrowed. "What do you want from us?" "Nothing." "That ain't possible." "Maybe it should be." They stared at each other. Two survivors. Two people who'd learned that kindness always came with a price. "Fine," Emmy said finally. "We'll stay, but I'm watching you." "I expect nothing less." A knock at the door broke the moment. Caleb opened it to find Rose McCall on his step. She carried a basket that smelled like fresh bread and determination. "Morning, Caleb." Her eyes moved past him to the girls. "I thought you might need help." "I can manage." "Can you?" Rose's tone was gentle but firm. "Those girls need more than a blacksmith can give alone." "I've been managing Sam just fine." "I know, but there's two of them. They're traumatized, and one's a girl who's barely been allowed to be a child." She held his gaze. "You need help, whether you want to admit it or not." Caleb felt his pride bristle, but he thought of Emmy's 11-year-old eyes ancient with survival. He thought of Goldie's silence. 2 years of carrying grief too heavy for words. He thought of Sarah, who would have welcomed help without hesitation. "Come in," he said. Rose moved through his kitchen like she belonged there, set down her burdens, turned to Emmy with a smile that held no pity. "I'm Rose. I live next door." "What's your name?" "Emmy. That's Goldie." "Pleasure to meet you both." Rose knelt to Emmy's eye level. "When's the last time you had a proper bath?" Emmy's cheeks flushed. "Don't remember." "Well then, let's fix that." She heated water, laid out clean cloths, guided Emmy to the basin with gentle efficiency. Caleb watched Rose's hands work through Emmy's matted hair, watched something in the girl's shoulders begin to ease. He turned away, suddenly unable to watch. Rose had been a widow 3 years, lost her husband, lost the baby she'd been carrying. She'd learned to live with wanting and not having, and now here she was, giving what she could to children who weren't hers, being the mother she'd never gotten to be. Caleb moved to his bedroom, to the trunk he hadn't opened in 18 months. Sarah's things. Her dresses still smelled faintly of her, lavender and wood smoke, the scent of home. He couldn't dress orphans in his wife's clothes, but he couldn't leave them in rags either. That night, after the girls were asleep, Caleb carried Sarah's dresses to the forge. One by one, he fed them to the flames, watched fabric become ash, felt something in his chest break and remake itself. "Caleb?" He turned. Rose stood in the forge entrance, backlit by moonlight. "Thought you'd gone home." Came back, saw the light. She moved closer. Her eyes found the last dress dissolving into flame. "Oh. They need clothes." "I know." "Can't wear hers." "No, they can't." Rose touched his arm. "But you can let me help. Let me sew them something new." "Why would you do that?" "Because those girls need a woman's hand." She paused. "And you need not to carry this alone." Caleb looked at her. Really looked. Saw the loneliness he'd been too wrapped in his own grief to notice. "Thank you," he said. "You're welcome." She stayed while the last dress burned, stood beside him in the forge's heat. Neither spoke. Some things were understood in silence. The week that followed changed everything. Rose appeared each morning with bread still warm from her oven. She taught the girls to wash properly, to braid their hair, to sit at a table without fear. Caleb worked the forge while Sam showed his new sisters every corner of their small world. By the end of the week, a routine had emerged. Mornings meant breakfast together. Afternoons meant learning letters for Emmy, simple games for Goldie. Evenings brought supper and stories before bed. Emmy was still watching, still waiting for the trap. But her shoulders weren't quite so high anymore. Her eyes weren't quite so hard. And Goldie was starting to look at Caleb without flinching, starting to reach for things instead of pulling back, starting to be a child again. On the 7th day, they were gathered around the stove. Rose mending a tear in Emmy's dress. Sam teaching Goldie to stack wooden blocks. Caleb stirring stew. Quiet. Peaceful. Almost like a family. Goldie placed the last block on her tower. It stood, didn't fall. She looked up at Sam with something like wonder. And then she spoke. Safe. One word. Barely audible. Everyone froze. What did you say, sweetheart? Rose's voice shook. Goldie looked around at all of them. Her small face serious, certain. Safe. Emmy burst into tears. Sam whooped loud enough to rattle the windows. Rose pulled Goldie into her lap, crying and laughing at once. And Caleb? Caleb stood at the stove with his back to all of them, tears streaming down his face, unable to speak. Safe. After 2 years of silence, that was the word she chose. Safe. Because of them. Because of this ragged makeshift family they were building. Safe. Caleb wiped his eyes. Turned around. Rose was looking at him over Goldie's head. Her eyes shining. Her smile trembling. Something passed between them. Something that had been building for months. Something that terrified him more than outlaws ever had. He looked away first, but he knew she'd seen it, and he knew she felt it too. That night, after the children were asleep, Caleb walked Rose to the door. Thank you, he said, for everything. You don't have to thank me. Yeah, I do. She looked up at him, snow falling soft behind her. Her face beautiful in the lamplight. Caleb. Rose. They spoke at the same time, stopped. You first, Caleb said. I was just going to say. She hesitated. This week, being here, with the children, with you. Her voice dropped to a whisper. It's been the happiest I've been in 3 years. Caleb's heart hammered. Rose, I know it's not my place. I know they're not my children. I know you're still grieving. But She stopped, pressed her hand to her mouth. You what? Nothing. I should go. She turned, started to walk away. Rose? She stopped, didn't turn around. It's been the happiest I've been too, Caleb said quietly. And I don't know what that means, but I know I don't want you to go. She turned then, her eyes full of tears, full of fear, full of hope. Caleb, this is complicated. I know. People will talk. Let them. You're still wearing your ring. Caleb looked down at his hand, at the gold band he'd worn for 12 years. Yeah, he said. I am. What does that mean? It means I loved my wife. It means I'll always love her. He met Rose's eyes. It doesn't mean I can't love again. The word hung between them. Love. Caleb, we barely know each other. Then let's know each other better. It's too fast. Maybe, or maybe it's finally making sense. Rose shook her head, but she was smiling, crying and smiling at once. You're impossible. So I've been told. I need time. Take all you need. I need to think. Think all you want. Caleb. I'll be here, Rose. However long it takes, I'll be here. She looked at him for a long moment. Then she stepped forward, Rose on her toes, pressed a kiss to his cheek. Good night, Caleb. Good night, Rose. She walked away through the snow. Caleb watched until she reached her door, until she turned and waved. until her light came on and he knew she was safe. Then he went back inside, checked on the children, banked the fire. His life had changed completely in 1 week. A week ago, he'd been a widower with 1 son and a heart locked up tight. Now he had 3 children sleeping under his roof. A woman who made him feel things he'd sworn never to feel again. A future that looked nothing like he'd planned. It should have terrified him. It did terrify him. But underneath the fear, something else was growing. Something that felt like hope. Caleb sat in the dark and let himself believe just for a moment that maybe second chances were real. Maybe broken things could be made whole. Maybe this Christmas he'd finally found his way home. Sunday morning came with church bells and judgment. Caleb dressed the children in their cleanest clothes. Emmy wore a dress Rose had sewn from scraps. Goldie clutched her doll in one hand, Emmy's fingers in the other. Sam walked beside his father chin high. They entered the church together. All 5 of them. Rose had joined them at the door without being asked. Heads turned before they reached the first pew. Caleb heard the whispers start like wind through dry grass. That's the Walsh widow with Caleb Hardin. His wife barely cold in the ground. And those girls, where'd they come from? Playing house mighty quick, ain't they? Rose stiffened beside him. Emmy's hand found Caleb's. Small, cold, trembling. He squeezed back. The sermon was about charity, about kindness to strangers, about the spirit of Christmas. Caleb watched Reverend Miller's mouth move and heard nothing. His attention was fixed on the back of Maggie Sloane's head. The woman who ran the general store. The woman who knew everyone's business and made sure everyone else knew it too. After service, she cornered them in the churchyard. Mr. Hardin. Maggie's smile didn't reach her eyes. Might I have a word? Ma'am. Those girls. She looked at Emmy and Goldie like they were stray dogs. Where exactly did they come from? They needed help. There are proper channels for that. The county orphanage. Judge Whitmore handles all placements. They don't need the county. They got a home. Do they? Maggie's eyebrows rose. And what exactly is Mrs. McCall's role in this arrangement? Rose's voice came out steady. I'm helping a neighbor. How charitable. The word dripped poison. Though some might wonder about propriety. A widow and a widower playing house with stray children. Emmy stepped forward, 11 years old, thin as a reed, eyes blazing. We ain't strays, and they ain't playing nothing. Emmy. Caleb put his hand on her shoulder. Gentle. Warning. Maggie looked down at the girl. Mind your manners, child. Little girls should be seen and not heard. I ain't little, and I got plenty to say. Emmy. Caleb's voice was firmer now. That's enough. The girl subsided, but her eyes stayed fixed on Maggie. Burning. Maggie turned back to Caleb. Judge Whitmore will want to know about this. He oversees all orphan placements in the territory. Then let him know. He might have questions about suitability, about propriety. He can ask them to my face. Maggie's smile sharpened. I'm sure he will. She walked away. Her skirt swished against the frozen ground. Rose let out a breath. That woman! She's trouble. She's worse than trouble. She's connected. Rose lowered her voice. Her husband supplies half the ranches in the territory. If she decides to make problems, then we'll handle problems. Caleb. I said we'll handle it. They walked home in silence. The children sensed the tension. Even Sam, usually chattering, kept quiet. That night, Emmy found Caleb alone by the fire. Mr. Caleb, just Caleb. That woman at church, the mean one. Maggie Sloane. She's gonna try to take us away, ain't she? Caleb looked at the girl, 11 years old, already knowing how the world worked. She might try. What happens if she does? She won't succeed. How do you know? Because I won't let her. Emmy studied his face. You really mean that? I really mean that. People said things like that before. The Hendersons said they'd keep us forever. Then Mr. Henderson lost money on cattle, and suddenly we was too expensive to feed. Caleb felt his chest tighten. I ain't the Hendersons. No, you ain't. Emmy was quiet for a moment. But that judge she mentioned, Whitmore, I know that name. Yeah. He's the one who placed us with the Hendersons, and the family before that, and the one before that. Her voice went flat. He gets paid for every kid he places. Doesn't matter where. Doesn't matter if they're safe. Long as somebody takes us, he gets his money. Caleb's hands curled into fists. How do you know that? Heard the Hendersons talking. They was paid $50 to take us. $50 from the county fund, and $50 more from somewhere else. Mr. Henderson called it easy money. What happened to that money? Spent it. On whiskey mostly. Then when it ran out, we ran out too. Caleb stared into the fire. Felt rage building in his gut. That ain't gonna happen here, Emmy. You sure? I'm sure. Because Goldie? Emmy's voice cracked. First time Caleb had heard it waver. Goldie can't take another family giving us up. It'd kill her. And if it didn't kill her, it'd kill me watching it happen. Caleb reached out, slow, careful. Put his hand on Emmy's shoulder. She didn't flinch, didn't pull away. Listen to me, he said quietly. I ain't perfect. I don't always know what I'm doing. But I made a promise and I keep my promises. You and your sister are staying. Whatever it takes. You understand? Emmy's eyes filled with tears she refused to let fall. Yeah, she whispered. I understand. Good. Now get some sleep. Tomorrow's Christmas. Emmy nodded, started toward the bedroom, stopped. Mr. Caleb. Yeah. Thank you for not lying to me. Everybody else always lies. She disappeared into the darkness. Caleb sat alone with the fire and his thoughts. Judge Whitmore. Paid placements. A system that treated children like cattle. He'd been a deputy once. He knew how corruption worked. Knew how men with power used it against those without. He'd thought those days were behind him. Maybe they weren't. Christmas morning dawned cold and clear. Caleb woke to laughter. Strange sound. He'd almost forgotten what it sounded like. He found Sam and the girls in the main room gathered around the small tree they'd decorated with pine cones and ribbon. Rose was there too. Must have come early. Pa. Sam's face was bright. Miss Rose made presents. I didn't make much. Rose looked almost shy. Just some things. She'd sewn dolls for the girls, simple things made from scraps and stuffed with wool. Emmy held hers like it might break. Goldie pressed hers to her chest beside the doll Rose had already given her. For Sam there was a new scarf, blue wool carefully knitted. For Caleb, nothing. You didn't need to do this, he said quietly. I wanted to. Rose. It's Christmas, Caleb. Let me give. He looked at her. At the woman who'd lost everything and still found ways to give more. Thank you, he said. The words weren't enough. He didn't have better ones. The day passed in warmth and laughter. They ate the goose Caleb had bought 2 days before. They sang carols badly, all of them off-key. They told stories and played games and for a few hours forgot that the world outside existed. That night, after the children were asleep, Caleb and Rose sat by the dying fire. Thank you, he said again, for making this Christmas matter. You made it matter. You took them in. I just gave them a roof. You gave them... He searched for the word. You gave them a mother, even if just for a day. Rose was quiet for a long moment. I always wanted children, she said finally. Thomas and I tried for years. When I finally got pregnant... Her voice caught. I lost her at 7 months. The doctor said I couldn't have more. I'm sorry. I've made peace with it. Or I thought I had. She looked toward the bedroom where the girls slept. Then these children came. And suddenly all that peace feels like a lie I was telling myself. Caleb understood. God help him, he understood exactly. Sarah wanted more children, he said. We were going to try again. Then she got sick and he stopped, started again. I told myself one was enough, that Sam and I were complete. But watching him with those girls... He's different, Rose said. Lighter. Yeah, he is. They sat in silence. The fire crackled. Outside snow began to fall again. Caleb? Rose's voice was barely above a whisper. What are we doing? I don't know. People will talk. They already are. It could hurt the children. It won't. You don't know that. No, I don't. He turned to face her. But I know that hiding from something good because of something bad that might happen ain't living. It's just dying slow. Rose's eyes filled with tears. I'm scared, she whispered. Me too. What if this falls apart? What if the judge takes the girls? What if everything we're building just... Then we'll build again. You make it sound simple. It ain't simple, but it's worth it. He took her hand, felt her fingers tremble. You're worth it. Rose looked at their joined hands, at the ring still on his finger. Sarah would want me to be happy, would want Sam to have a mother, would want those girls to have someone who loves them. His voice steadied. She'd want this, Rose. I know she would. A tear slipped down Rose's cheek. Ask me, she whispered. What? Ask me what you want to ask me. I can see it in your eyes. Have for weeks. Caleb's heart hammered. Rose McCall, will you? A knock shattered the moment. Hard. Urgent. The kind of knock that meant trouble. Caleb was on his feet instantly, hand moving to where his gun used to hang before he remembered he'd given it up. He opened the door. Deputy Wade Thornton stood on his porch. Young. Earnest. The man who'd taken Caleb's badge when he'd turned it in. Caleb, sorry to interrupt. What is it? Judge Whitmore. Wade's jaw was tight. He knows about the girls. Maggie Sloan went to him this morning. Christmas morning, can you believe it? Caleb's blood went cold. What did she tell him? That you got 2 orphans living here without proper authorization. That you and Mrs. McCall are engaged in... Wade stopped. I can't even say it. It's disgusting what she implied. What's Whitmore doing about it? He's coming here, tomorrow. Says he needs to assess the situation. Make sure the children are in a suitable home. And if he decides they're not... Wade's silence said everything. He can't just take them, Rose said from behind Caleb. Her voice was fierce. They're happy here. They're safe. Ma'am, I don't disagree. But the judge has authority over orphan placements. If he says the children need to be moved, then I'll fight him. Wade looked at Caleb. You know what kind of man Whitmore is. I've got my suspicions. He's been running a scheme for years, takes money from ranchers who need cheap labor, places orphans on their properties, calls it giving children good homes. In reality, they're slaves. Might as well be. Wade lowered his voice. The Henderson ranch that had these girls before, they're one of his biggest customers. Word is they want them back. Caleb felt the world tilt. They put those children out in December, left them to freeze. Henderson says that's not what happened. Says the girls ran away. Says he's been looking for them. That's a lie. I know, but it's his word against theirs. And they're just children. Rose's hand found Caleb's arm, gripping tight. What do we do? Caleb's mind raced. Judge Whitmore. Corrupt. Connected. Protected. The kind of man who could make children disappear into a system designed to exploit them. When's he coming? Tomorrow afternoon, 2 o'clock. That gives us the morning. To do what? Caleb looked at Wade. really looked. Saw the man his former deputy had become. Decent, honest, disgusted by what he'd seen. You said Whitmore's been running this scheme for years. Yeah. There must be records, payments, something that proves what he's doing. If there is, it'd be in his office, in the courthouse. Can you get me in? Wade's eyes widened. Caleb, Can you get me in? A long pause. Wade's jaw worked. I can. But if we get caught, we won't. If we do, I lose my badge. You go to prison, and those girls end up exactly where Whitmore wants them anyway. Then we better not get caught. Rose stepped forward. Caleb, this is too risky. It's the only chance we got. There has to be another way. There ain't. Whitmore's got the law on his side. The only way to beat him is to prove he's been breaking it. Wade was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded. Meet me at the courthouse, midnight. I'll leave the back door unlocked. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Wade pulled his hat low. We ain't done nothing but make a plan that could get us all killed. He walked away into the snow. Rose turned to Caleb. You can't do this. I have to. If something happens to you, those children, we'll have you. The words hung between them. What? Rose's voice was barely audible. If something happens to me, if Whitmore wins, take the children and run. Go west. California. Start over somewhere he can't reach. Caleb. Promise me, Rose. I can't just... Promise me. Tears streamed down her face, but she nodded. I promise. Caleb pulled her close, held her tight, felt her heart beating against his chest. I ain't planning on dying, he said into her hair. I ain't planning on losing. But if I do, I need to know they're safe. All of them, including you. Rose pulled back, looked up at him with wet eyes. You come back, she said fiercely. You hear me? You come back. I will. Swear it. I swear it. She kissed him then, hard, desperate. The first real kiss they'd shared. When they finally broke apart, both of them were shaking. Go, Rose whispered. Do what you have to do. I'll watch the children. Caleb looked at her one more time, memorized her face, just in case. Then he walked out into the snow. The courthouse stood dark and silent. Caleb moved through shadows, keeping close to buildings, avoiding the main street. His blacksmith's hands were steady. His heart was not. He found Wade waiting by the back door. The deputy's face was tight with fear. You sure about this? No, let's do it anyway. They slipped inside. The courthouse smelled of old paper and older lies. Wade led the way with a shuttered lantern, casting just enough light to see by. Whitmore's office was on the second floor. Locked. Caleb pulled out a pick. Old skills from a life before Sarah. Before respectability. Before he'd tried to be a better man. The lock clicked open. Inside, they found what they were looking for. Ledgers. Stacks of them. Going back years. Caleb opened the first one. Ran his finger down columns of numbers. Look at this, he whispered. Payments from Henderson. $50 per child. And here. Payments from the Morrison Ranch. The Blackwood Farm. Dozens of them. He's been selling children. For years, right under everyone's nose. This is enough to hang him. It's enough to save those girls. A floorboard creaked. Caleb and Wade froze. Well, well. Judge Whitmore's voice came from the doorway, cold, amused. The disgraced deputy and the grieving widower, breaking into my office on Christmas night. Whitmore stepped into the light. He was a big man, heavy. His eyes were small and cruel. Behind him stood two men, ranch hands by the look of them, big, armed. I had a feeling you might try something like this, Whitmore continued. Maggie Sloan told me you were the stubborn type. Step aside, Whitmore. Caleb's voice was steady. We've got enough here to end you. Do you? Whitmore smiled. And who's going to believe you? A blacksmith and a deputy who broke into a judge's office in the middle of the night? He shook his head. You'll hang before those ledgers ever see a courtroom. Maybe. But the truth will come out. The truth. Whitmore laughed. The truth is whatever I say it is. In this territory, I am the law. Wade moved forward. Not anymore. Ah, the young idealist speaks. Whitmore's eyes glittered. Tell me, deputy, how attached are you to your badge, your career, your life? More attached to my conscience. How noble, and how stupid. Whitmore nodded to his men. They started forward. Caleb didn't think. He moved. His fist connected with the first man's jaw. The second grabbed for him, but Wade was there, driving a shoulder into the man's midsection. They fought in the darkness, fists and fury. Caleb took a punch to the ribs, another to the face. Tasted blood. But he kept fighting. For Emmy. For Goldie. For the promise he'd made. When it was over, both ranch hands were on the floor. Whitmore stood alone. This changes nothing, the judge spat. I have friends, connections. You can't touch me. Maybe not. Caleb gathered the ledgers. But I can make sure everyone knows what you are. Who'll believe you? Everyone. Once they see these. Whitmore's face went red. Those are my property. They're evidence of crimes against children. Caleb stepped closer. You've been selling kids into slavery, Whitmore, using your position to profit from misery, and it ends now. You self-righteous fool! You think you're any better taking in strays, playing house with the widow? You're just using those children to fill the hole your dead wife left. The words hit like bullets. Caleb's vision went red. He wanted to kill Whitmore. Wanted to wrap his hands around the man's throat and squeeze until his face turned blue. But he didn't. Because Emmy's voice was in his head. People always say nice things at first. Then they change. He wouldn't change. He wouldn't become the monster Whitmore wanted him to be. You're under arrest, Wade said, stepping forward with handcuffs. For corruption, for child trafficking, for crimes against the territory. You don't have the authority. I have enough. Wade's voice was cold. And by morning, so will everyone else. They took Whitmore into custody. Dawn was breaking when Caleb finally made it home. Rose met him at the door. Her face went white when she saw the blood. Caleb. I'm fine. It's over. Over. Whitmore's in jail. Wade's got enough evidence to keep him there forever. Rose's hands flew to her mouth. The girls are safe. They're staying. You're sure? I'm sure. Emmy appeared behind Rose. Her eyes were wide. Mr. Caleb, what happened to your face? Had a disagreement with some folks. Did you win? Caleb looked at her. At this fierce, broken, beautiful child who'd learned to expect the worst from the world. Yeah, he said. We won. Emmy's face crumpled. For the first time since he'd met her, she cried. Really cried. Not the silent tears she'd fought back before, but great heaving sobs that shook her whole body. Caleb knelt and caught her. She threw her arms around his neck. Thank you, she sobbed. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You're welcome, sweetheart. You're welcome. Goldie appeared then, small and silent. She looked at Caleb with those enormous eyes. Then she walked forward and wrapped her arms around him too. Papa, she whispered. Caleb's heart stopped. It was only the second word she'd spoken in 2 years, and she'd chosen to give it to him. Sam was there now, joining the embrace. Rose stood watching, tears streaming down her face. Papa, Goldie said again, like she was testing the word. Papa? Yeah, sweetheart. Caleb's voice cracked. I'm your papa now, if you'll have me. Emmy looked up at him. Her face was wet, her eyes red, but she was smiling. We'll have you, she said. And just like that, Caleb Hardin had a family again. The week after Christmas should have been peaceful. It wasn't. Whitmore sat in the county jail, but his poison had already spread. Maggie Sloan made sure of that. She talked to everyone who would listen, and in a town like Coldwater Creek, everyone listened. Caleb heard the whispers when he walked to the general store. Broke into the courthouse. Middle of the night. Attacked the judge. Beat him bloody. And those girls, Lord knows what he's doing with them. He kept walking, head high, jaw tight. Rose met him at the store entrance. Her face was pale. "They won't sell to me," she said quietly. Maggie told them not to. "What?" "I tried to buy flour, salt, basic things." Rose's voice trembled. "They said they were out of stock, but I could see the bags right behind the counter." Caleb's hands curled into fists. "Stay here." He walked into the store. Maggie Sloan stood behind the counter, her smile sharp as a blade. "Mr. Hardin, what can I do for you?" "You can sell Mrs. McCall what she needs." "I'm afraid we're low on supplies. The winter, you know." "I can see the flour from here." "Reserved, for paying customers." "Rose is a paying customer." "Is she?" Maggie's eyes glittered. "I've heard some troubling things about Mrs. McCall, about her arrangement with you. Some folks don't feel comfortable doing business with that kind of woman." Caleb stepped forward, close enough that Maggie had to look up. "You listen to me," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "Rose McCall is a good woman, better than anyone in this town. And if you keep spreading lies about her, about me, about those children, you'll what?" Maggie didn't flinch. "Hit me like you hit the judge." "I never touched Whitmore." "That's not what I heard." "Then you heard wrong." "Did I?" She smiled. "The whole town knows what you did, Mr. Hardin. Breaking into the courthouse, assaulting a judge, stealing documents." She leaned forward. "Some folks are saying you should be in that jail cell right next to him. Those documents prove Whitmore's been selling children." "So you say. But where's the proof now? Wade Thornton has it, and Wade Thornton works for the territory." Her smile widened. "Things have a way of disappearing when powerful men want them to." Caleb felt ice spread through his chest. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying Judge Whitmore has friends. Important friends. Friends who don't appreciate having their business arrangements exposed." Maggie straightened. "Now, is there anything else I can help you with?" Caleb stared at her for a long moment. Then he turned and walked out. Rose was waiting. "What happened?" "We need to find Wade. Now." They found the deputy's office empty. His horse was gone. His badge lay on the desk. "No." Rose picked up the badge. Her hands shook. "He wouldn't just leave." Caleb searched the office. Found Wade's gun in a drawer. His coat on a hook. "He didn't leave by choice." "What do you mean?" "I mean someone took him." Rose's face went white. "The evidence? Gone. Probably destroyed by now." "So Whitmore is going to walk free." The words hung in the air. Heavy. Terrible. "Caleb, what do we do?" He didn't answer. Didn't have an answer. Everything they'd fought for. Everything they'd risked. Gone in a single night. They walked home in silence. The children were waiting. Emmy took one look at Caleb's face and knew. Something bad happened. "Yeah." "The judge." "His friends took the evidence. Wade's missing." Emmy's jaw tightened. That old look returned to her eyes. The one that said she'd known all along this would happen. "So we run." "What?" "We run. Tonight. Before he comes for us." Emmy's voice was flat, practical. "I've done it before. Goldie and me. We know how to disappear. We ain't running. Then we lose. We ain't losing either. You can't have it both ways, Mr. Caleb. Either we run or we fight. And you ain't got nothing left to fight with." Caleb looked at this child who'd learned too young that the world was cruel, who'd survived by expecting the worst and preparing for it. "There's always something left to fight with," he said. "Like what?" "The truth." Emmy laughed, bitter, old. "Truth don't matter. Money matters. Power matters. Truth's just words. Sometimes words are enough. When has truth ever been enough against men like Whitmore?" Caleb didn't have an answer. Emmy saw it in his face. "That's what I thought," she said. "I'll pack our things." She walked toward the bedroom, stopped at the door. "I ain't angry at you, Mr. Caleb. You tried. That's more than most." Her voice softened. "But trying ain't winning, and I can't let Goldie go back to that life. I won't." She disappeared inside. Rose sank into a chair. "She's right, isn't she? Without that evidence, there's got to be another way." "What way? Whitmore controls the law. His friends control everything else. We're just—" She stopped, pressed her hands to her face. "We're just ordinary people. We can't fight this. Sarah used to say ordinary people are the only ones who ever change anything. Sarah's dead." The words hit like a slap. Rose's eyes went wide. "Caleb, I'm sorry. I didn't mean—" "You meant it, and you're right." He stood, moved to the window. "Sarah's dead, and I've been trying to live by her rules ever since. Be kind. Be patient. Trust that good wins in the end." He turned. "Maybe that's not enough anymore. Maybe good don't win. Maybe you have to make it win. How? I don't know yet, but I ain't giving up, and I ain't running." A knock at the door. Caleb opened it to find a woman he didn't recognize, middle-aged, well-dressed, eyes red from crying. "Mr. Harden." "Yeah." "My name is Clara Morrison. My husband owns the Morrison Ranch." She glanced over her shoulder. "May I come in?" "Please, it's about Judge Whitmore." Caleb stepped aside. Clara entered quickly. Her hands twisted together as she spoke. "I heard what you did. Breaking into the courthouse. Finding those ledgers." "That evidence is gone now." "I know. My husband made sure of it." Caleb went still. "Your husband?" "He's one of them. One of Whitmore's partners." Tears spilled down Clara's cheeks. "I didn't know. For years I didn't know. I thought the children on our ranch were hired help. Orphans who needed work. But last night—" She broke down. "Last night I found out the truth." Rose moved to her side. "What truth?" "They're slaves, those children. My husband buys them from Whitmore. Works them until they're too sick or too injured to continue. Then he—" Clara's voice shattered. "Then he disposes of them." Caleb felt his stomach turn. "Disposes. There's a ravine on the north edge of our property. I found—" Clara covered her mouth. "I found bones. Small bones. Children's bones." Rose made a sound like she'd been stabbed. "How many?" Caleb's voice came out hoarse. "I don't know. A dozen, maybe more." The room spun. Caleb grabbed the table to steady himself. "Why are you telling us this?" "Because I can't live with it anymore. Because those children deserve justice. Because—" Clara looked at Emmy, who had emerged from the bedroom. "Because I know what my husband would have done to those girls if you hadn't taken them in." Emmy's face was pale, but her voice was steady. "You knew. All along you knew." "I suspected. I was too scared to look." Clara's tears fell faster. "I was a coward. I'm still a coward. But maybe if I help you—" "Help us how?" Caleb cut in. "The evidence is gone." "The ledgers are gone. But there are other records. Whitmore keeps duplicates. He's paranoid. Always has been." Clara's voice dropped. "There's a safe. In his house. Behind a painting in his study. The combination is his wife's birthday. March 17th, 1832. How do you know this?" "Because I used to be his wife's friend, before she died. Before I married Morrison and moved away." Clara met Caleb's eyes. I've spent 20 years pretending I didn't see what was happening. 20 years of silence while children died. I can't bring them back. But maybe I can save the ones who are still alive. Caleb studied her face, looking for the lie, the trap. He found only grief, and guilt, and desperate aching regret. If we get those records, he said slowly, can you testify? Tell people what you saw? Yes. Even against your husband. Especially against my husband. Rose stood. Caleb, this could work. Or it could be another trap. I know how this looks, Clara said. Why should you trust me? I'm married to one of the men who hurt those children. But I'm telling you the truth, and I'll prove it. How? Take me with you. When you go to Whitmore's house. If I'm lying, you can leave me there for the marshal to find. But if I'm telling the truth, we get the evidence we need. And those girls stay safe. Caleb looked at Emmy, at Rose, at the future he was trying to build from broken pieces. Tonight, he said. We go tonight. Whitmore's house stood dark at the edge of town. Big, imposing. The kind of house that said its owner was important. Caleb moved through shadows. Clara beside him. Rose had stayed with the children. Emmy had wanted to come. Caleb had said no. She'd argued. He'd said no again. The study's on the second floor, Clara whispered. Third window from the left. Guards. Whitmore's in jail. His staff was dismissed when he was arrested. The house should be empty. Should be. Caleb didn't like should be. They found a side door. Caleb picked the lock. Easier than the courthouse. Inside, the house smelled of old money and older secrets. They climbed the stairs, found the study. The painting Clara described hung above the fireplace, a portrait of a woman with sad eyes. His wife, Clara said quietly. Elizabeth. She died 10 years ago. Some say it was her heart. Others say she found out what he was doing and couldn't live with it. Caleb pulled the painting aside, found the safe. March 17, 1832. The lock clicked open. Inside, stacks of papers, ledgers, letters, a fortune in documented crimes. Caleb grabbed everything, stuffed it into the bag he'd brought. This is enough. More than enough. Clara's voice shook. There are names in there, dates, amounts, every child he ever sold, every rancher who ever bought one. Including your husband. Including my husband. They moved back toward the stairs. A voice stopped them cold. I knew you'd come. Caleb turned. A man stood in the hallway, big, armed, face like stone. Mr. Morrison, I presume, Caleb said. Caleb Hardin, the blacksmith who thinks he's a hero. Morrison smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. And my wife. My traitorous, faithless wife. Clara stepped back. Henry. Shut up. Morrison's gun came up. Did you think I wouldn't find out? Did you think I'd let you destroy everything I've built? Everything you've built is on the bones of children. Everything everyone builds is on someone's bones. That's how the world works. Morrison cocked the hammer. Now give me that bag. Caleb didn't move. You can shoot me, he said calmly. But then everyone will hear. People will come. They'll find the bodies. They'll find whatever evidence I've already hidden. You're bluffing. Am I Wade Thornton still alive? I know because your people would have killed him already if they could find him. He's got copies of those first ledgers, hidden somewhere you'll never find. Caleb took a step forward. You can kill me, Morrison, but you can't kill the truth. Morrison's face twisted. You self-righteous fool. You think you're saving those girls? You're just delaying the inevitable. Whitmore will walk free. He always does. And when he does, he'll take everything you love. Maybe. But not tonight. Morrison's finger tightened on the trigger. Clara moved. She threw herself at her husband. Knocked his arm aside. The gun went off. The shot went wide. Caleb lunged. They fought. Morrison was bigger, but Caleb was faster. They crashed against furniture, knocked over lamps. Morrison's fist caught Caleb's jaw. Caleb's elbow found Morrison's throat. Morrison went down, gasping, choking. Caleb grabbed the gun, stood over the man with his chest heaving. "It's over." "Nothing's over," Morrison wheezed. "Kill me if you want. There are others, dozens of others. You can't stop all of us. Watch me." Caleb brought the gun down on Morrison's head. The man went limp. Clara stood trembling against the wall. "Is he alive?" "Unfortunately." Caleb grabbed the bag. "We need to go, now." They ran. Behind them someone was shouting. Lights were coming on, but they had what they needed. They had the truth. Dawn found them in Caleb's kitchen, the children awake, Rose pacing. Caleb spread the documents across the table. "Names," he said. "Dates, payments, everything." Rose looked at the papers. Her face went pale. "There are dozens of children listed here. Over 100, going back 15 years. And the ones who died, marked with a cross." Caleb's voice was rough. 37 crosses. Emmy stood at the edge of the table. Her eyes scanned the documents. "There," she said suddenly. "That name. Rebecca Cole." Caleb looked. "Who's Rebecca Cole?" "My mother." Emmy's voice cracked. "She was an orphan too, before she married my pa. She used to tell us about the family that took her in when she was little. How kind they were." Tears slid down her cheeks. She lied. Or maybe she didn't know. Maybe she blocked it out. Caleb reached for her. She stepped back. "All this time, my whole life, and I never knew." "Emmy. My mother survived this. She survived, and she never told anyone. And then she died, and Goldie and me almost ended up in the same place she did." Emmy's whole body shook. "How is that fair? How is any of this fair?" "It ain't," Caleb said quietly. "It ain't fair at all." "Then why fight? If the world's this broken, why bother trying to fix it?" "Because your mother survived. Because she had you. Because you survived. Because maybe—" Caleb's voice steadied. "Maybe the whole point of surviving is to make sure it don't happen again." Emmy stared at him. "You really believe that?" "I have to. Otherwise, what's the point of anything?" A long silence. Then Emmy nodded. "Okay," she said. "Okay. What do we do now?" "We take this to the territorial marshal in Cheyenne. He's outside Whitmore's reach. If we can get there before Morrison's people catch up." "How far is Cheyenne?" 3 days by horse. Maybe 2 if we push hard." "In winter?" "It's the only way." Rose stepped forward. "I'll go with you." "No, you stay with the children." "Caleb, if something happens to me, they need you. Emmy and Goldie need a mother. Sam needs—" He stopped, started again. "Sam needs someone to tell him his pa didn't die for nothing." Rose's eyes filled with tears. "Don't talk like that. I'm talking practical. Morrison's got men, money, power. Getting to Cheyenne won't be easy." Caleb took her hands. "Promise me you'll take care of them." "I promise, but you're coming back." "I plan to. Plan harder." He almost smiled. Almost. Clara Morrison spoke from the corner. "I'll go with you. I know the territory. I know my husband's men. I can help." "You've done enough." "I've done nothing. 20 years of nothing." Clara's chin lifted. "Let me do something that matters, please." Caleb studied her face. Saw the same desperate need that drove Emmy. The need to make things right. "All right. We leave in an hour." He turned to the children. Sam stood with his sisters holding Goldie's hand. "Pa, come back okay." "I will, son." "Promise." Caleb knelt, pulled all 3 children close. I promise. Whatever it takes. I'm coming back to you." Emmy's arms tightened around his neck. "We'll be here," she whispered. "We ain't going anywhere." "I know you won't." He stood, looked at Rose. She crossed to him, put her hands on his face. "You come home to me, Caleb Hardin." "I will. You come home and marry me, properly, in a church, with the whole town watching." "Is that a proposal?" "It's an order." "Yes, ma'am." He kissed her, long and deep, not caring that the children were watching, not caring about anything except this moment, this woman, this family he'd found when he wasn't looking. When they finally broke apart, Rose was crying. "Go," she said, "before I change my mind and lock you in the cellar." Caleb grabbed the documents, the bag, his gun. At the door he turned back one last time. 4 faces watched him. The woman he loved, the son he'd raised, the daughters he'd chosen, his family. He'd die before he let anyone hurt them. But he didn't plan on dying. He planned on winning. And then he walked out into the cold. The first day on the trail passed without incident. Too quiet. Caleb knew better than to trust quiet. Clara rode beside him, her face pale but determined. She'd traded her fine dress for practical clothes borrowed from Rose. Looked like a different woman entirely. "How far behind do you think they are?" she asked. "Hard to say. Morrison's got men spread across 3 counties. Could be hours, could be minutes." "You're not making me feel better." Wasn't trying to. They pushed the horses hard, stopped only when the animals needed rest, ate cold food in the saddle, slept in shifts. The second night, Clara sat by their small fire staring into the flames. "I keep thinking about those children," she said quietly. "The ones in the ravine." "Don't." "How can I not? I lived in that house for 20 years, ate at that table, slept in that bed, and the whole time—" her voice broke. "The whole time they were dying, right under my feet." "You didn't know." "I should have. I should have looked harder, asked more questions." Tears streamed down her face. "I was so busy being comfortable, so busy pretending everything was fine." Caleb fed another stick to the fire. "We all pretend. It's how we survive." "Is that what you tell yourself?" "It's what I know." Clara looked at him. "What did you pretend about?" Caleb was quiet for a long moment. "My wife, Sarah. She was sick for months before she died. I saw it, the coughing, the blood, the way she got weaker every day." His jaw tightened. "I pretended it wasn't happening. Told myself she'd get better. Told myself I had time. But you didn't." "No, I didn't." He stared into the flames. "Git. She died while I was chasing outlaws. Died alone with only Sam beside her, because I couldn't face the truth. That's different. Is it? You pretended your husband wasn't killing children. I pretended my wife wasn't dying. Both of us too scared to look at what was right in front of us." Clara wiped her eyes. "You're a hard man, Caleb Hardin." "Life made me hard. I'd rather be soft. Soft don't survive." They sat in silence. The fire crackled. Somewhere in the darkness, a coyote howled. "Do you think we'll make it?" Clara asked. "To Cheyenne." "We have to." "That's not an answer. It's the only one I got." Morning came cold and gray. They broke camp before dawn, pushed harder than the day before. By midday, Caleb knew they were being followed. He saw the riders first. 3 of them, maybe 4, keeping distance, matching pace. "Don't look back," he told Clara. "Just keep riding." "They found us." "Looks like." "What do we do?" "Outrun them if we can. Fight them if we can't." "I don't know how to fight." "Then stay behind me when the time comes." They rode faster. The horses labored. Foam flecked their mouths. The riders gained. Caleb spotted a narrow canyon ahead. Rock walls on both sides. One way in, one way out. Trap or shelter, depending on how you looked at it. "In there," he said. "Now." They plunged into the canyon. Caleb pulled his horse around, blocking the entrance. "Keep going," he told Clara. "Find another way out." "There might not be one." "Then pray there is." She hesitated. "Caleb, go." She rode deeper into the canyon. Caleb drew his gun and waited. The riders came, 4 of them, Morrison's men. Hard faces, harder eyes. The lead rider held up his hand. The others stopped. "Caleb Hardin." The man's voice echoed off the canyon walls. "Mr. Morrison wants his property back." "Don't have any property of his. Those papers you stole, they belong to him. They belong to the families of dead children." The rider smiled, cold, empty. "You're making this harder than it needs to be. Hand over the papers and we'll let you ride away. Morrison's a reasonable man. Morrison's a murderer. Morrison's the law in these parts. You'd do well to remember that. Law ain't the same as right." "No, but law's got guns, and right now, law's got more guns than you." Caleb counted. 4 riders. 4 guns against his 1. Bad odds. But he'd faced worse. "Here's how this is gonna work," he said calmly. "You're gonna turn around and ride back to Morrison. You're gonna tell him I ain't stopping. You're gonna tell him those papers are gonna reach Cheyenne, whether he likes it or not. And if we don't, then some of you are gonna die. Maybe all of you. Definitely the first one who moves." The riders exchanged glances. Caleb's gun hand was steady. His eyes never wavered. "You're bluffing," the lead rider said. "1 man against 4. I was a deputy for 12 years, killed more men than I can count. Some of them were faster than you, better armed than you, smarter than you." Caleb cocked the hammer. "They're all dead. I'm still here." Silence stretched. The wind moaned through the canyon. The lead rider's hand moved toward his holster. Caleb fired. The man dropped, dead before he hit the ground. The other 3 scattered. Caleb fired again, caught one in the shoulder. The man screamed and fell from his horse. The remaining 2 returned fire. Bullets ricocheted off rock. Caleb ducked low, moved fast, fired twice more. Another man down. The last rider turned and ran, spurred his horse back the way they'd come. Caleb let him go. Message sent. He checked the fallen men. 2 dead. 1 wounded unconscious. 1 fled. It would have to be enough. He found Clara at the far end of the canyon. She was shaking badly. "I heard gunshots." "It's done." "Are they? They won't follow us anymore." Clara looked at his face, saw something there that made her look away. "You've done this before." "Yeah." "Does it get easier?" "No. It just gets familiar." They rode on. The wounded man would live or die. Either way, Caleb couldn't help him. He'd made his choices long ago. Peace with them came and went. The 3rd day brought new trouble. Snow started falling at noon. Light at first, then heavier. By evening, they could barely see the trail. "We need to stop," Clara said. "The horses can't take much more. We're half a day from Cheyenne. We won't make it in this storm." She was right. Caleb hated that she was right. They found shelter in an abandoned cabin. Old, falling apart. But it had walls and a roof that mostly held. Caleb built a fire from broken furniture. They huddled close to the flames, waiting for the storm to pass. "Tell me about your wife," Clara said suddenly. "What?" "Sarah. Tell me about her. I want to know." Caleb stared into the fire. "Why?" "Because we might die out here. And if we do, I want to know something real about the man I died with." Strange logic, but it made sense somehow. "She was stubborn," Caleb said quietly. "Stubborn as a mule, and twice as ornery. First time I met her, she threw a bucket of water at my head. Why? I made a comment about her cooking, said it wasn't fit for pigs. Was it? Worst meal I ever had, but I ate every bite just to see her smile. Clara almost smiled. Sounds like you deserved that bucket. Probably did. Caleb's voice softened. She had this laugh, like bells ringing. I could hear it from across town and know exactly where she was. His throat tightened. I ain't heard that laugh in 18 months. Still listen for it sometimes. You loved her. More than my own life. And Rose? Caleb was quiet for a long moment. Rose is different. Sarah was fire. All heat and light and energy. Rose is water. Steady. Calm. She fills the cracks I didn't know I had. He met Clara's eyes. I didn't think I could love again. Thought that part of me died with Sarah. But Rose, she brought it back. Yeah, she did. Clara nodded slowly. That's good, Caleb. That's real good. You ever love someone like that? No. Clara's voice was hollow. I married Morrison for security, for position. I told myself love would come later. She laughed bitterly. It never did. And now I've spent half my life with a monster. That ain't your fault. Isn't it? I chose him. I stayed. I looked the other way while children died. You're here now. That counts for something. Does it? Does anything I do now make up for 20 years of nothing? I don't know, but it's better than another 20 years of nothing. Clara was quiet. The fire crackled. Outside, the storm raged. When this is over, she said finally, I'm going to find those families, the ones whose children died. I'm going to tell them what happened, tell them I'm sorry. That won't bring the children back? No, but maybe it'll give the families some peace. Maybe it'll give me some too. Maybe. They slept in shifts again. The storm passed by morning. They rode hard, the horses struggling through fresh snow. Every mile felt like 10. Noon came, then afternoon. The sun started dropping toward the horizon. There, Clara pointed. Cheyenne. Caleb saw it. A proper town. Buildings, streets, people. And at its center, the territorial marshal's office. They pushed the exhausted horses the final mile. Dismounted at the hitching post. Caleb grabbed the bag of documents, started toward the door. It opened before he could reach it. A man stepped out, badge on his chest, gun on his hip, eyes sharp and assessing. You'd be Caleb Hardin. How'd you know? Got a telegram this morning, from a man named Wade Thornton. Caleb's heart lurched. Wade's alive. Barely. They found him in a ravine 2 days ago, beat half to death, but he managed to tell us what happened before he passed out. The marshal's eyes moved to the bag. That what I think it is? Records, from Judge Whitmore's safe. Everything you need to shut him down. And the woman, Clara Morrison, wife of one of Whitmore's partners. She's willing to testify. The marshal studied them both for a long moment. Then he nodded. Come inside. We got a lot to talk about. 3 hours later, Caleb walked out of the marshal's office. His hands were empty. The documents were with the authorities now. Clara was giving her statement. It was over. Really over. Whitmore would face trial. So would Morrison and the others. The children who'd survived would be found freed, given real homes. Justice. Finally. Caleb should have felt relieved. He just felt tired. He found a telegraph office. Sent a message to Coldwater Creek, safe in Cheyenne. Stop. Whitmore finished. Stop coming home. Stop. Tell Rose yes. Stop. He bought supplies. Fresh horses. Started the long ride back. 2 days later, he saw Coldwater Creek on the horizon. His heart hammered. His hands shook. Home. He'd actually made it home. He rode into town at sunset. People stared. Whispered. But the whispers were different now. He could see it in their faces. Respect. Gratitude. Shame. They knew what he'd done. What he'd risked. What he'd exposed. He didn't care about any of it. He only cared about one thing. His house came into view. The forge beside it. Smoke rising from the chimney. The door flew open. Sam came running first. Then Emmy. Then Goldie. Her small legs pumping as fast as they could go. Caleb dismounted just in time to catch them. "Pa," Sam was crying. "Pa, you came back. I promised, didn't I? I knew you would." Emmy's arms were tight around his neck. "I knew it." Goldie pressed her face against his chest. "Papa home," she whispered. "Papa home." "Yeah, sweetheart. Papa's home." He looked up. Rose stood in the doorway. She wasn't moving, just watching, her face wet with tears. Caleb set the children down, walked toward her. "Rose." "Caleb, I got your message." "What message?" "The one I sent from Cheyenne. Told you yes." Rose's brow furrowed. "Yes to what?" "You told me to come home and marry you, properly, in a church." Caleb stopped in front of her. "I said yes." Rose's hand flew to her mouth. "Caleb, I love you, Rose McCall. I love your kindness and your strength, and the way you love my children like they're your own. I love how you make me feel alive again when I thought that part of me was dead." He took her hands. "Marry me. Be my wife. Help me raise these kids. Help me build something good out of all this broken." Rose was crying openly now, laughing and crying at the same time. "Yes," she said. "Yes, you impossible, stubborn, wonderful man. Yes." Caleb pulled her close, kissed her like the world was ending. Or maybe like it was just beginning. The children cheered, Sam whooped, Emmy clapped. Goldie tugged at Caleb's coat until he picked her up, holding her between them. "Family now?" Goldie asked. "Yeah, sweetheart." Caleb looked at Rose, at Sam, at Emmy, at this strange, beautiful, broken family that had found each other in the dark. "We're family now. For real. Forever." They stood there in the dying light. 5 people who'd lost everything and found each other. It wasn't perfect. Nothing ever was. But it was theirs. And that was enough. The days that followed were a blur of activity. News spread fast. Whitmore arrested. Morrison arrested. A dozen other men named in the documents, all facing charges. The territorial marshal sent deputies to investigate the Morrison ranch. They found the ravine Clara had described. Found the bones. 37 children. Some had names. Most didn't. The town held a memorial service. The whole population turned out. Even Maggie Sloan, her face pale and chastened. Caleb stood with his family. Rose on one side, the children on the other. Emmy held Goldie's hand. Her face was still, unreadable. "You okay?" Caleb asked quietly. "I'm thinking about my ma, about how she survived this, about how she never told anyone." Maybe she couldn't. Maybe. Emmy was quiet for a moment. "I'm gonna tell people. When I'm older. I'm gonna make sure everyone knows what happened here, so it don't happen again. That's a good thing to do. It's the right thing." Emmy looked up at him. "You taught me that. The right thing matters even when it's hard." Caleb's throat tightened. "I didn't teach you anything. You already knew." "Maybe. But you showed me it was worth fighting for." After the service, people approached Caleb, shook his hand, thanked him, apologized for not believing, for not helping, for looking the other way. He accepted their words, didn't hold grudges. What was the point? The past was past. What mattered now was the future. A week later, Wade Thornton came home. Caleb met him at the stage depot. The deputy was thinner, his face still bruised, but his eyes were clear. "Heard you finished it," Wade said. "Got the evidence to Cheyenne. Couldn't have done it without you. Those copies you hid almost got me killed." "Almost ain't the same as did." Wade almost smiled. "No, I suppose it ain't. What now? You gonna stay on as deputy? Actually. Wade reached into his coat, pulled out a badge. I was hoping you might consider taking this back. Caleb stared at the badge, the symbol of a life he'd left behind. I ain't that man anymore. Maybe not, but maybe that's exactly why you should be. Wade held out the badge. This town needs someone who knows right from wrong. Someone who'll fight for what matters. Someone the people can trust. There are other men. Not like you. Caleb thought of Sarah, of the promise he'd made to be a better man. He thought of Rose, of Sam, of Emmy and Goldie. He thought of all the children who'd died because good men did nothing. I'll think about it, he said finally. Wade nodded, pressed the badge into Caleb's hand. Don't think too long. Town needs you. He walked away. Caleb stood alone, staring at the badge in his palm. A lawman again. After all these years. Could he do it? Could he be that man again, knowing what it had cost him before? He didn't know. But maybe that was okay. Maybe not knowing was part of figuring it out. He slipped the badge into his pocket. Decision for another day. Right now he had a family to get home to. Right now, that was enough. The wedding was set for the first Sunday of February. Rose wanted simple. Caleb wanted whatever Rose wanted. The children wanted everything. Emmy took charge of the flowers. Sam helped Caleb with his suit. Goldie followed Rose everywhere, clutching her doll and asking questions about what it meant to be married. It means we're family forever, Rose told her. For real this time. Forever, forever. Forever, forever. Goldie smiled. That rare, precious smile that still caught Caleb off guard every time he saw it. The night before the wedding, Caleb couldn't sleep. He sat by the fire, turning the badge in his hands. Wade's offer still hung over him. The weight of it. The responsibility. Can't sleep either. He looked up. Emmy stood in the doorway, wrapped in a blanket. Thought you'd be out cold by now. Too much thinking. She crossed to sit beside him. What's that badge? Wade wants me to be deputy again. You gonna do it? Don't know. Emmy studied his face. You're scared. Ain't scared. Yeah, you are. I know scared when I see it. She pulled her blanket tighter. What are you scared of? Caleb was quiet for a long moment. Last time I wore this badge, I lost Sarah. Was out chasing outlaws when she died. Couldn't say goodbye. Couldn't hold her hand. His voice roughened. What if it happens again? What if I take this badge and lose Rose? Lose you kids. Emmy considered this. What if you don't take it and something bad happens anyway? What do you mean? Bad things happen, Mr. Caleb. Badge or no badge. You can't stop them by hiding. She met his eyes. My pa hid. Stayed home. Kept safe. Died of cholera same as my ma. Safe didn't save him. The words hit harder than Caleb expected. When'd you get so wise? When I had to. Emmy almost smiled. Take the badge. Be the sheriff or deputy or whatever they want you to be. Just don't forget to come home. I won't. Promise. Promise. Emmy nodded, stood, started back toward her room. Emmy. She turned. Thank you. For what? For being you. For being brave. For... His throat tightened. For letting me be your pa. Emmy's eyes glistened. Thank you for wanting to be. She disappeared into the darkness. Caleb sat alone with the badge and his thoughts. By morning, he'd made his decision. The church was packed. Every seat taken. People standing along the walls. The whole town turned out to watch Caleb Hardin marry Rose McCall. Caleb stood at the altar, heart hammering. Sam beside him as best man. Wade Thornton on his other side. The doors opened. Rose appeared. She wore a dress she'd sewn herself. Simple. Beautiful. Her hair was pinned up with wildflowers Emmy had gathered that morning. But Caleb barely saw the dress. He saw her eyes, bright with tears, bright with joy. He saw her smile, the one she saved just for him. He saw his future walking toward him. Emmy and Goldie walked ahead of Rose, scattering dried flower petals. Goldie's face was serious with concentration. Emmy held her sister's hand, guiding her down the aisle. When Rose reached the altar, she took Caleb's hands. "Nervous," she whispered. "Terrified." "Good. Me too." Reverend Miller cleared his throat. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to witness the union of Caleb Hardin and Rose McCall in holy matrimony." The words washed over Caleb. He heard them and didn't hear them. All he could see was Rose. All he could feel was her hands in his. "Do you, Caleb, take Rose to be your lawfully wedded wife? To have and to hold from this day forward for better or worse, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, until death do you part?" "I do." "And do you, Rose, take Caleb to be your lawfully wedded husband? To have and to hold from this day forward, for better or worse, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, until death do you part?" Rose's voice was steady. "Sure. I do." "Then by the power vested in me by the territory of Wyoming, I now pronounce you husband and wife." The Reverend smiled. "You may kiss the bride." Caleb pulled Rose close, kissed her like there was no one watching. Kissed her like the world was just beginning. The church erupted, cheering, clapping, Sam whooping loud enough to rattle the windows. When they finally broke apart, Rose was laughing and crying at the same time. "We did it," she whispered. "We did it." Goldie tugged at Rose's dress. "Mama now, for real." Rose knelt, gathered the little girl in her arms. "For real, sweetheart, forever and ever. And Papa stays. Papa stays." Goldie pressed her face into Rose's shoulder. "Good," she whispered. "Good." The celebration lasted well into the evening. Food, music, dancing, laughter. Caleb watched his family from the edge of the crowd. Sam teaching Emmy to dance. Rose spinning Goldie in circles. Everyone smiling. Everyone happy. Wade appeared at his elbow. "Hell of a party. Hell of a day. Made up your mind yet about the badge?" Caleb reached into his pocket, pulled out the badge, looked at it one more time. "Yeah," he said. "I have." He pinned it to his chest. Wade grinned. "Welcome back, Deputy." "Feels strange." "Give it time. Strange becomes normal." "That what happened to you?" "That's what happens to everyone." Wade clapped his shoulder. "Come on, your wife's looking for you." Caleb found Rose at the edge of the dance floor. She saw the badge immediately. "You took it." "I did." "Are you sure?" "No, but I'm doing it anyway." He pulled her close. "Emmy told me something last night. Said safe don't mean nothing. Said bad things happen whether you hide from them or not." "Smart girl." "Smarter than me, that's for sure." Rose touched the badge. Her fingers traced its edges. "Sarah would be proud of you." "You think?" "I know." Rose looked up at him. "I'm proud of you too. Even though it means danger risk late nights and early mornings." "Even though," she smiled. "Besides, someone's got to keep this town safe. Might as well be you." "Might as well." He kissed her. Soft, gentle, full of promise. "Dance with me, Mrs. Hardin." "I thought you'd never ask." They danced, slow and close. The music wrapped around them like a blanket. Caleb held his wife and let himself feel happy. It was a strange feeling. One he'd almost forgotten, but he remembered now, and he wasn't going to forget again. Spring came early that year. The snow melted, the ground thawed, life pushed up through the mud reaching for the sun. Caleb settled into his new role as deputy. The badge felt less strange on his chest. The responsibility felt less heavy on his shoulders. Rose settled into her role as mother. She'd been doing it all along, really. Now it was just official. The children thrived. Sam grew taller by the week, started helping at the forge more, started talking about apprenticing with Caleb when he was old enough. Emmy softened. Not completely. She'd always be watchful, wary. But she smiled more, laughed more, started acting like a child instead of a survivor. And Goldie? Goldie bloomed. She talked now. Full sentences. Questions that never stopped. She followed Rose everywhere, learning to sew, to cook, to braid hair. She followed Caleb everywhere else, asking about the forge, the badge, the horses. Papa, why is fire hot? Papa, why do horses need shoes? Papa, why is the sky blue? Papa, why do you love Mama so much? That last one made Caleb stop. Why do I love Mama? Yeah, why? He thought about it. Really thought. Because she makes me want to be better, he said finally. Because when I'm with her I remember who I'm supposed to be. Because she sees the good in me even when I can't see it myself. Goldie considered this. Is that what love is? Seeing good. Part of it. What's the other part? Choosing. Every day. Choosing to stay. Choosing to try. Choosing to believe in someone even when it's hard. Did you choose us, me and Emmy? Caleb knelt to her level. I chose you the moment I saw you behind that cart. Scared and cold and alone. I looked at you and Emmy, and something in my heart said, these are mine. I didn't understand it then. I do now. What does it say? It says you're my daughter. It says you belong with me. It says I'd do anything to keep you safe. He touched her cheek. It says I love you, Marigold Cole Hardin, more than I ever thought I could love anything. Goldie's eyes filled with tears. I love you too, Papa. She threw her arms around his neck. Caleb held her tight. This, he thought. This is what matters. Not the badge, not the past, not the fear. Just this. This family. This love. Everything else was just noise. Summer brought a letter from Cheyenne. Caleb read it twice before he believed it. Whitmore's been convicted, he told Rose. Life in prison. Morrison too. Rose's hand flew to her mouth. It's really over. It's really over. Emmy appeared in the doorway. The judge. The one who sold children. He's going to prison for the rest of his life. Emmy was quiet for a long moment. Then she started to cry. Not the silent tears she'd shed before. Real tears. Loud, messy. The tears of someone finally letting go. Caleb crossed to her, held her while she sobbed. It's okay, he said. It's okay. He can't hurt anyone anymore. All those kids? Emmy choked out. All those kids who died. I know. It's not fair. They should be alive. They should have families. I know, sweetheart. I know. Why did they die and I lived? Why me and Goldie and not them? The question hung in the air, heavy, unanswerable. I don't know, Caleb said honestly. Maybe there's no reason. Maybe it's just luck. Or maybe... He pulled back, met her eyes. Maybe you're here because you're supposed to make sure it never happens again. How? By telling the story, by remembering, by making people listen. He wiped her tears. You said you wanted to tell people what happened. You still want that? Emmy nodded. Then do it. Write it down. Speak it out. Make sure no one forgets. What if people don't believe me? Make them believe. You're the strongest person I know, Emmeline Hardin. If anyone can make the world listen, it's you. Emmy's jaw tightened. That familiar determination returned to her eyes. Okay, she said. Okay, I'll do it. That's my girl. Clara Morrison came to visit in August. She looked different, older somehow, but also lighter. Like she'd finally set down a burden she'd been carrying too long. I wanted you to know, she said. I've been traveling, visiting the families, the ones whose children... She stopped, started again. I've told them what happened. Told them I'm sorry. Given them what closure I could. How many? 32 families so far. 5 more to go. That can't be easy. It's not, but it's necessary. Clara looked at the children playing in the yard. How are they? Good, better every day. And Rose, she's my wife now. Clara's face softened. I'm glad. You deserve happiness, Caleb. After everything. So do you. I'm not sure I do, but I'm trying to earn it. She stood. I should go. I just wanted to say thank you. For doing what I couldn't. For saving those girls. They saved themselves. I just helped. That's not true, but I understand why you'd say it. Clara extended her hand. Goodbye, Caleb. Goodbye, Clara. She walked away, climbed into her wagon, drove off toward the horizon. Caleb watched her go and hoped she'd find peace, whatever that meant. Whatever it cost, everyone deserved peace, even the ones who'd looked away. Fall arrived, wrapped in gold and red. 1 year since Caleb had first seen Emmy at the Christmas market. 1 year since everything changed. He stood at Sarah's grave, hat in hands. Been a while, he said quietly. Sorry about that. Things got busy. The wind rustled through the trees. A bird sang somewhere nearby. I got married again. Her name's Rose. You'd like her, I think. She's kind, strong. Loves the children like her own. He paused. I hope you're not angry. I hope you understand. Silence. Sam's growing up. Got your eyes. Your stubbornness, too. A small smile. And I've got daughters now. Can you believe that? 2 girls, Emmy and Goldie. They came to me broken, Sarah. Really broken. But they're healing. Every day, a little more. He knelt, touched the cold stone. I miss you. Every day. I'll always miss you. But I've learned something this year. Something important. His voice thickened. Missing you doesn't mean I have to stop living. Loving you doesn't mean I can't love again. You wouldn't want me to be alone. You told me that once, remember, when you first got sick. You said, don't you dare waste your life mourning me, Caleb Hardin. You find someone. You be happy. Tears slid down his cheeks. I'm trying, Sarah. I'm really trying. He stood, wiped his face. I'll come back. I always do. But for now, I've got a family waiting. Kids who need supper. A wife who needs help with the dishes. He almost laughed. Can you imagine me doing dishes? You'd be laughing yourself sick. He touched the headstone one more time. Rest easy, my love. I've got it from here. He walked away without looking back. Some goodbyes weren't endings. They were just pauses. And someday, a long time from now, he'd see her again. But not yet. Not for a long while yet. Christmas came around again. 1 year since the market. 1 year since the bread. 1 year since Caleb's life split in two and came back together better than before. They decorated the tree together. All 5 of them. Strung popcorn and ribbon. Hung ornaments Rose had made. Papa, lift me up, Goldie demanded. I want to put the star on top. Caleb hoisted her onto his shoulders. She stretched up, tongue sticking out in concentration, and placed the star on the highest branch. Perfect, Rose said. I did it. You did it. Emmy stood back, watching. Her face was soft in the lamplight. Happy. You okay? Caleb asked. Yeah, just thinking. About what? About last year. About how scared I was. How sure I was that you'd send us away. I'd never... I know that now. Emmy met his eyes. But I didn't know it then. And sometimes I still can't believe how different everything is. How different I am. Different how... safer. Happier. She paused. Less angry. You had a right to be angry. Maybe. But being angry all the time is exhausting. It's nice to put it down sometimes. She almost smiled. It's nice to just be a kid. Caleb pulled her into a hug. You'll always be my kid. You know that, right? No matter how old you get, no matter where life takes you, you're mine. I know, Papa. Papa. She'd started calling him that last month. First time it had almost stopped his heart. I love you, Emmy. I love you too. They stood together watching the tree, watching the family they'd built from broken pieces. Rose came up beside them, wrapped her arms around Caleb's waist. Happy? She asked. More than I ever thought I'd be again. Good. Me too. Sam appeared with Goldie on his back. Ma, Pa, can we open presents tonight? Just one, please. One, Rose said. But just one. The children cheered, descended on the pile of gifts under the tree. Caleb watched them tear paper, laugh, exclaim over their treasures. This, he thought. This is what I almost missed. This is what I almost let fear steal from me. Never again. He'd spend the rest of his life making sure they knew how loved they were, how wanted, how precious. He'd spend the rest of his life being the man Sarah believed he could be, the man Rose helped him become, the man these children deserved. Later, after the presents were opened and the children were asleep, Caleb and Rose sat by the dying fire. You're thinking deep thoughts, Rose said. Just grateful. For what? For you. For them. For all of it. He turned to face her. A year ago, I was barely living, just going through the motions. Then Emmy stole that bread and everything changed. Everything changed. Rose took his hand, threaded her fingers through his. I was scared too, you know. When I first started coming over, helping with the girls, I told myself it was just neighborly, just kindness. She laughed softly. I was lying to myself the whole time. What were you really doing? Falling in love, with you, with Sam, with those broken little girls who needed a mother so badly. Her eyes glistened. I told myself I couldn't have a family, that it wasn't meant for me. But the whole time my family was right next door, just waiting for me to be brave enough to claim it. Are you glad you did? More than anything. Caleb kissed her, soft, slow, full of all the words he couldn't say. Thank you. He whispered against her lips. For what? For teaching me that love isn't something you find. It's something you build, day by day, choice by choice. You taught me that too. Then I guess we taught each other. They sat together in the firelight. The house quiet around them. The children safe in their beds. Outside, snow began to fall. Caleb watched it through the window. Thought about the girl who'd stolen bread in a snowstorm. The sister she'd been protecting. The family they'd all become. Broken things can be made whole. Lost things can be found. Dead hearts can beat again. He'd learned that this year, learned it in his bones, in his blood, in every beat of his foolish, stubborn heart. Love wasn't weakness. It was strength. Family wasn't burden. It was blessing. And hope was the thing that carried you through the darkness until you found the light. Caleb. Yeah. Let's go to bed. Tomorrow's Christmas. Yeah, it is. He stood, took her hand, led her toward their bedroom. At the door he paused, looked back at the tree, the ornaments, the star Emmy had placed so carefully on top. 1 year ago, he'd been a broken man with a broken son going through the motions of a life that didn't feel like living. Now he had a wife, 3 children, a purpose, a future. Now he had everything that mattered. And it had all started with a girl, a loaf of bread, and a choice to help instead of look away. That was the thing about Grace, Caleb thought. It didn't announce itself, didn't ask permission. It just arrived unexpected and unearned, and changed everything it touched. All you had to do was let it in. All you had to do was say yes. He closed the door behind him. Tomorrow was Christmas. Tomorrow was the first day of the rest of their lives, and whatever came next, they would face it together. Because that's what families did. They held on, they showed up, they chose each other again and again until choosing became as natural as breathing. And in the end, that was all that mattered. Not the past they'd survived, not the pain they'd endured, just the love they'd built, just the home they'd made, just the family they'd become. Broken pieces made whole, lost souls finally found. A house full of love in a town called Coldwater Creek in a winter that changed everything. And they lived. Not happily ever after because life didn't work that way. But happily enough. Bravely enough. Together enough. They lived, and that was the greatest gift of all.